I've learned a lot of skills over the years within my industry. I've been a working artist for 40 years, and then I've always done a retail job just to so that I could get health insurance and all that kind of stuff and a 401k. And yes, I did have a 401k once upon a time. So this video is going to be about using the skills you already have to try to find work, even if that's freelance work. And I've learned a lot of skills within my industry over the years, and I've worked for over 40 years um, doing art and working retail. And I've always kept retail as my safety net job. So I feel like now I, even though I'm kind of semi-retired, I do still have this business that I'm working. So now it's an official business. It has been since 2014. So welcome to my channel. This is Sandy. If you haven't been to my channel before, and the channel is My Retirement Daydream. So as I said, I've worked on this for many years, and in 2014, it was I started my business, and I'd already been working for somebody else because I moved states. I'm in Indiana right now. I moved from Pennsylvania. So I felt like I could make more money working on my own, and there wasn't much work available because of the big economic crash that we had. And I started doing face painting, which was my husband's suggestion, which I thought, how am I going to make money doing that? I'd never heard of it before. But it was within my realm of capability because as an artist, it was basically just a new canvas and a new skill to learn and new materials. So my first job was doing festivals is how I started out, and I started doing German Fest right here in town, and did it for about 3 or 4 years, painting by the face and developing my skills and having people see my work close up. And I did get a lot of paid gigs from that. They never offered me money to do it. It was just paint by the face, which if anybody wants to take that up, that is not the route to take because you cannot make ends meet with that. It's very unpredictable. So anyway, like I said, I did gain some paying jobs from that. And in 2014, I put the business together, and I call it like a potluck business because I had never been in business before. I didn't know what I was doing. There was no business plan. There was no business cards, no pamphlets, no website, no insurance, no clients yet. And I went to a couple of resources. Some of the universities around here offer um, business advice. So I went to an organization called SCORE here in town, and it consists of experienced, successful businessmen, but they're retired. So they volunteer their time and give you all kinds of business advice. So they thought this was a viable business, what I was planning to do, and showed them some of my portfolio, some of the things I'd done in the past. And they put me in touch with a business lawyer, um, which of course is like a reduced rate because he's also involved in that program. So it wasn't free, but it was definitely 50% rate. And he set up the LLC for me. So that was one thing. Then I looked up insurance by myself and found entertainers insurance. I had a friend of mine who was going to school at the time, and she helped with the graphic design part. And I had made up my card, and everything was really on the fly. So I designed the card very quickly, and we went to the computer lab and got that printed out so we could have a disc to make a business card, and then came up with a tagline like right there and then, which was bring your imagination, we'll bring the brushes. So I guess I work well under pressure. Like I've always been a good idea person. So anyway, that was that part. And then we made a pamphlet, and my husband called all over Indiana. There's a lot of festivals here in the summer, like I guess starting in the spring all the way to the fall, and fall gets really crazy. So I worked at a lot of festivals, and this whole thing was like a learning experience, piece by piece. So I did a lot of paint by the face events because that's what people talk you into. There's also like a very expensive booth fee that can go from 75 all the way up to $500 for booth. And I learned pretty quickly that you have to earn back your booth fee before you're actually earning money. So, say if I paid $500 for a booth fee and I only earned $400 for the remainder of the day painting face by face, I wasn't really breaking even. Plus, I was schlepping all this equipment around because you have to have your own tent, your table and chairs, and the fire marshal requires you to have 40 pound sandbags on each corner of your tent to hold your tent down. And we found out why a couple of times when things blew away, even with those weights. So the last festival that I did, I think it was our third year in, and it was a very affluent area. It's Culver Lake. It's beautiful out there, and there's a very prestigious military academy that kids come from all over the world to go to that academy. They have some kind of equestrian program there as well. And we made great money out there about 3 years in a row. And then the last year I was out there, it was the summer that we had rain every single weekend. And that last weekend was like a monsoon. We barely got the tent up and set up, and it started pouring and pouring and pouring. And that was my last festival. I went across the street, I got myself a margarita, and I'm like, I'm done. So that got me to making invoices, and we found like a free print off invoice, and I still use it to this day. But one of the directives on the bottom of that invoice is that they have to provide table and chairs and cover, and also they have to waive the booth fee. And if they can't waive the booth fee, then they can find a business sponsor that will pay our fee, and then I could do the festival. Otherwise, I don't accept festivals. I still have that rule today. I have like a handful of festivals that we do that are really popular, but it's almost like you have to train your customer, and you have to think enough of yourself and your business um, to kind of set down some rules and policies. That was the beginning of the policies. So I started with 5 policies, and now I probably have about 20. And each one of those policies came from a learned experience of not doing that again. And now there's a policy in place. An example of that was I booked an event. They asked for a rain date, and I said yes before I thought about it. And as soon as I hung up, I'm like, if it doesn't rain, I just gave away that day, and I've lost a booking. I can't book anyone else. So now the policy is if you want a rain date, the rain date has to be according to our calendar, what we have, what our availability is. And that's worked for me for all these years. So anyway, back to using the skills that you have. Um, like I said, this was just a learning curve all these details. And YouTube, you can find anything in any industry, and business advice and how to run any of these freelance businesses. And then before I came before I came here, um, I brought up this business because of out of necessity, because there were no jobs. There were actually signs, I've never seen this in my life, that said we are not hiring on every establishment in town. So back in Pennsylvania, I lived there for about 38 years. Um, I worked at a place that was kind of serendipitous that I worked there. The person I was dating at the time, his sister worked at a bank, and one of her clients owned a frame shop, kind of a novelty shop, like almost like an eclectic curiosity shop, but it was a basically the main business was framing. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but framing is like super expensive, and it's really people with disposable income or a lot of money that do framing. But she was in the best spot. It was like a gold mine. So it was this little street. The shop wasn't that fancy, and they were looking for a store manager actually, because her manager that she'd had for years had retired, and she had that manager's daughter was a artist, and she used to do these wedding invitations, like hand painted wedding invitations, which she used the original invitation, they mount it on a silk mat and then frame it. So it wasn't super popular, but it was like a nice offering that they did that was unusual. And, you know, there weren't too many frame shops that did other things other than framing. So I didn't want to accept the job as manager because I have like zero math skills. Um, it's a learning disorder that I found out I had in adulthood. Um, there was a lot of measuring and um, estimating, and that just was not my wheelhouse. But I did accept the in house art job and started doing the invitations. So those invitations ended up being like the hottest wedding gift on the main line for the 14 years that I was there. The main line is made of generational wealth. These families, it's like generations and generations of wealth. And they all frequent um, the same places. And this shop was something that the daughter went to, the mother went to, the grandmother, the great grandmother. Everybody's been coming there for years. So it was like well established, like for over 35 years when I started there. I started doing, like I said, I started doing those invitations, and it became really popular. And it was great for me because I was making more money for the 1 or 2 days that I worked there than I did for the 40 hours I put in for my retail job. But raising my kids, I couldn't give up that retail job because I needed that health insurance. That job was one of the best jobs I've ever had, only because I picked up I learned a lot of different avenues within my field where I could make money that you don't learn in school. You know, when you go to art college or any college for any subject, they don't say, well, you can also do this and this, because this skill set allows you to do multiple avenues. They'll try to convince you to go back to school and pay more money. So being the unusual shop they were, a lot of these customers would come in and say, well, do you know how to do this? Or can you do this? And we would customize a lot of things. I even ended up doing restoration work, which I had no idea what that was. You know, I would look at things and I could figure out if it was too complicated or, you know, out of my wheelhouse. And I would just look things up and do it, and the customer would be super happy with it. So that was like one more thing added to my repertoire there. But it was a very fun job. Um, I even had some famous artists like Paul Klee, abstract artist, Salvador Dali, pieces that would come in there that were maybe framed incorrectly, and the guys in the back would pull the glass off and pull the paint up with it. Well, I'd had 2 years of color theory and being a commercial artist at the time, working with gouache paint, which is very opaque and flat. They use it for photography because it doesn't reflect. So when they pulled that up and the patches came off, these are like valuable pieces, and I ended up correcting them like flawlessly to the point where they saved a shelf for me that was like Sandy's specials, kind of save your butt specials, basically. So that was another skill I picked up there. So anyway, what this is about is like if you have skills, like we've all worked for years and years, and then if you're just suddenly displaced from your job, and it's not like today that you can go out and put like 1,000 resumes into the universe and think you're going to get at least three good offers out of this. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And you've got AI that are, filtering these resumes. I mean, you're kind of written off pretty quickly. And I think this goes for young people as well as old people, which is what makes it so difficult. But as retirees, we've got more of a challenge because we've got ageism to deal with as well. So nobody's looking to hire people our age. They want people that are, going to come in there as a stepping stone and get out before they owe them any benefits. Just the way the world works right now. I think any skill that you have, if you kind of reflect over the years what you've done in your job, I think almost any job that you go to, you wear several hats, or you've picked up additional skills there, and you just have to kind of go over that and look, what can you apply this to? How else can you use it? Or even your hobbies. Maybe you're good at woodworking and you can make decorative items or build clocks or make birdhouses. I have a neighbor behind me that has created a whole business making birdhouses. And it was just a hobby they had retiring. And it's doing well enough where he built an entire garage over there, like a workshop, to produce these things. And he sells them online, and he also gives some to his wife, who has some kind of craft booth or whatever. But birdhouses are super popular, especially if you have good skill with it and good pricing, because they are expensive if you buy them commercially. Or say you have bookkeeping skills. There's a lot of small businesses like mine that would hire you for bookkeeping. Maybe we can't provide 7 days a week, but you can do, say, if you had 5 clients, and I don't know what rate you charge, but if you have like just 5 clients, you're not killing yourself with work, but you're providing a service. And 5 clients could probably earn you the paycheck you used to earn. So, an example of my face painting, these are my bills. Okay. My bills, and that doesn't include food um, or prescriptions, is more than my Social Security check. So, what I earn doing face painting, just so that you know, this is not like a lot of people look down on it and think, oh, she's working at a carnival or something. I'm not. I'm not. I work a lot of corporate places. So far this year, this is an example of like one of my invoices, and this is just for an elementary school, $360. So anyway, this is my binder for the year of the business. So it's divided month by month, and then I do my invoices, and then this is not even full yet. So just for the month of March, like this is a seasonal business only because January, February, usually March is not that great either. But for January, I made 180, which, that's not a lot. February, 560. March, I made 1,698. April so far has just started. It's 200. Um, May is 1,400. June is 4,000. And everything from May down has not been paid yet. But so far, my bookings come to 21,188. And the season is just starting. So the average amount that I earn when it gets busy, like through summer, especially into fall, it averages $4,000 to $5,000 a month, which is a huge boost. Like I said, it's not every single month, but this is, like I said, 21,000. When that money starts coming in, it's going to be super helpful. It's not like a silly business that you can't make money from. So if you have an art skill, this is just an example of what you can do with it. If you have the stamina to sit through a lot of kids, I mean, you are sitting down while you're working, so that part is good for retirees. And I would say you have to like people, you have to love kids. And I am a bit of an introvert, but I'm a bit of a different person um, when I'm with people. I come out of myself a lot more. So this is another example of the work that I've done. This is basically what I did for that shop I was telling you about. They take an actual invitation and they dry mount it, and then I do the design around it. And then this is my wedding invitation that I designed. And then I reduced it and did multiple prints. And this is what it looks like for the finish. And then I cut the edges. I did a deckled edge with a scissor. And this was the RSVP, the envelopes. So that went out into the mail. I did the same thing, by the way, with the RSVP. I just printed them 4 to a page and cut them out. So that went out in the mail, and if I had the full envelope. I did the artwork, and my husband did the script. He actually writes with a real quill pen that he makes from goose feathers. And this is his actual handwriting. So that's how that went out inside an envelope. But I mean, if you do calligraphy or anything, I mean, it's endless what you can do. Your imagination is your limit. So this is his actual handwriting, if you can believe it. So we made a pretty good team there. We saved a lot of money on our wedding. We did everything ourselves. The other thing I did was I just from being around town and meeting people and just conversations. Somebody at one of the coffee shops that I frequented said that someone was looking for somebody to tutor her daughter in art, her granddaughter in art. She's interested in art. That was another job I had like for about 2 or 3 summers. This is a little gift that she gave me from Christmas. I also taught her how to do jewelry making. She gave me this as a gift, and it has the first locket that I showed her how to make with jewelry making. She even says on here, "This is the first pendant that you taught me how to make. Love." I won't say her name. It can be very fulfilling. So you're using your skills, you're sharing your skills, and this girl today is in university, earning her master's degree. in art therapy. So it can be impactful what you teach people. That's basically what I have to say about skills. Just kind of take inventory of what you know how to do, what you can share, um, even like consulting. My brother in law was a project manager for many years, and he still gets jobs consulting. You know, if you can't do the actual work, you can certainly teach it. There's a lot of community schools or community centers that have workshops you could teach. Think of there's like a myriad of ideas for any skill that you know how to do. So that might be a better avenue than trying to put resumes out and continue with the job that you have. In most cases, people didn't people don't enjoy the job that they had as much, you know? And like I said, this can be more fulfilling, like passing along your knowledge and you're not under pressure to perform. So think about it. And I'd love to hear your comments. Like, what do you think? Like, what are your skills? What do you think you can do with your skills? I'd love to hear from you. That's all I have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out big time. Bye.